Welcome to the Colby Cast, episode 95. Thank you for joining us. Today's guests are sacrilegious. Not sacrilegious, but sacrilegious. Founder Scott Williams and operations director Jeff Traylor explain how a desire for evangelization and a love of interesting socks came together to form Sacrilegious. From Pope socks to the Don't Be a Loser St. Anthony shirt, Scott, Jeff, and their entire team are finding creative and beautiful ways to get the conversation started about the faith. We hope that you'll enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, liturgical musician, popcorn and podcast fanatic, and Colby homeschooling mom to 4 lads and lasses of middle and high school age.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Colby Academy.
Longtime listeners know us to be prone to puns, but our guests today are aces at plays on words, which they combine with their love of Christ, His church, and the saints to enliven socks, t-shirts, and other fun stuff. Stephen and I are joined by Scott Williams, who with his wife Elizabeth founded Sacrilegious, and Jeff Traylor, who serves the company as Director of Operations and as co-host, along with Scott, of the All Set for Sunday podcast. Welcome to the Colby Cast.
Hey, thanks for having us.
That was a very flattering introduction.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That?
We're also proud of our puns.
They're I'm in awe, really. I tend to fall into mine. You guys, with your deliberate puns, they're fantastic. They really, enjoy them very much. Yes. All right, so Colby families likely recognize the Sacrilegious name from our celebration of Catholic Schools Week back in January, when Crazy Hat and Sock Day was among the festivities. Sacrilegious donated a portion of their sales that week to Colby's tuition assistance program. Thank you all so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Happy to support.
Thank you. For those of us unfamiliar with your company, would you guys help us get to know you a little bit by telling us about yourselves and how you two know each other?
Go for it, Jeff.
I get to do it. Well, yeah, I've been lucky enough, coming up on a year here, that I've been working with Sacrilegious and Scott and his wife and our wonderful team around here. I started part-time. I worked in high school campus ministry for 16 years, teaching and then in campus ministry. And Scott approached me about this crazy little ride that he's been on with Sacrilegious and asked me to come join him, and kind of laid out where he saw this company going. And I saw that there was a world where I was very committed to evangelization, and I saw this as just like a new adventure in that. And so I was happy to jump on and join. Sacrilegious as a company has been around for about 5 years and has grown pretty dramatically in that 5 years. And really, even over the last year, we've gone from 2 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees to 22 employees, 11 full-time, and a full manufacturing facility and creating. And we're just, it's a wild adventure around here and an absolute blast. And I'm lucky that I just have a great friend and brother in Scott, who we were friends anyway. We were hosting the podcast together. We really met working in ministry. And so Scott was in youth ministry. I was working in campus ministry. And through the Archdiocese of Indianapolis here, we had become acquainted, joined some professional organizations, and done some work with the NFCYM through that. And really, like, through that friendship and that bond, I was just I've been lucky enough to be able to come on and join Scott. And I've had a couple different jobs since I got here a year ago, but I think I'm settling into this one. Did I miss anything?
That was a good high-level overview, that's for sure.
Oh, thanks. You want to go low level?
Yeah, so I worked full-time in Catholic youth ministry for about 10 years, as Jeff said. That's where we met. And Jeff and I think I speak for him as well, is that we both left jobs that we love to pursue this new adventure. And it's been a lot of fun just to follow that call and to take it one step at a time. But it's been a blast.
It really is something special to, I had a job that I loved and really enjoyed, and then to try to explain to people that I was going to leave this job that I loved and enjoyed and was good at to go sell socks was was quite the hard thing to explain to people, but the more we bring people in and the more we're able to kind of spread the good news through what we're doing, it becomes easier and easier for people to understand.
Mm-hmm.
It is an interest. I mean, so recent history, but I'm just really interested as well about how this all started. I mean, with
Yeah.
I think I saw some of your things for the first time at some Catholic conventions
Mm-hmm.
that I was at, and saw a booth of your things and thought this is really interesting. But how did an idea like putting saints on socks and starting a company like that start?
Yeah. So when I was working full time in ministry, I've always had somewhat of a entrepreneurial mind, whether that was actually in youth ministry itself, finding new and creative ways to do my job, but constantly thinking of new and different things, businesses. Some of them will never see the light of day, but I was working full time at the Archdiocese, and shirt and tie was what I'd wear to work most days, and socks became my fun thing to express myself. So I was wearing donut socks on National Donut Day, or I'd wear my, American flag socks on Independence Day. And my wife and I just thought that it would be funny to sell socks that we could celebrate feast days with. It would just be a fun, new, and unique way to celebrate the faith.
Celebrate what?
The faith.
What
did I
kind
say?
of days?
Oh, feast days. That's what we call
We
them.
call
around
them
here.
feast days around.
But there's lots of different ways to express that, and that was just a fun and unique way to do it. And it turned out that we weren't the only people that thought that was fun. So,
yeah, Scott likes to tell the story that their first adventure into this, they walked down the hallway to their friend, who's now our creative director, and said, we want to make a sock. And she helped them draw that up, and they designed it, and they set up a booth, and they sold a sock a minute. And they thought, I mean, with a total risk of like, maybe nobody's going to like this, but we think it'll be fun. And all of a sudden they were like, well, I guess it's a thing. And so it's been nonstop ever since. And we're sitting here next to a full wall of about 85 different variants of socks that we make and sell, and just more and more every day.
So mostly you're interested, and then just a little thing, and then all of a sudden a sock a minute happens, and it becomes, hey, this isn't just a little side thing, or is that kind of the
yeah. So
right?
I mean, part of the story is too, working full time in ministry, it wasn't always the most lucrative career. And my wife and I very much knew that if we were going to raise and support a family, that we would need to think of alternate ways to bring in income, whether that is, a part-time job or some sort of, this became kind of a side hustle after we realized that it was a legitimate practice. And then I ended up just working hours before work and during my lunch hour and into the evening. And I ended up spending more time on this than I cared to outside of my regular work hours, because it was starting to chip into family times and things like that. So my wife and I finally just made the decision that was going to be the direction that we had. We felt that there was definitely, God had his hand in our business and has had this entire way. And we knew that this was something that was worth pursuing with all of our energy. So from a professional standpoint, I had a master's degree in the direction that I was heading in ministry. And we moved from that to, selling socks, which seems odd, but it's been a lot of fun.
You found like you're saying, a new way to reach people. That I'm thinking when I see your socks, I think of a member of my church choir. I'm a parish music director, and I've got a choir member who comes with some kind of sock, whatever socks he's known for, the socks he's wearing. So I think of him when I see your socks, like he needs some of these. So exactly, it's a way to reach people, start conversations, just to get the ball rolling. Really, it's
and
really very clever. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing that we want to do as an organization. Like your friend, his socks start conversations, right? And that is the foundation of everything that we want to do. Our kind of like tagline or mission statement is starting conversations through joyful products. Working full time in ministry, I quickly learned that the most difficult part, at least for me, in the evangelization process is just starting the conversation. And once you initiate that conversation and begin to talk about your journey with Christ and your witness and everything that comes along with that, the rest is, easy, but the most difficult part is just starting.
Sure.
No, and that makes it a lot of fun, and that's where it's a question we ask ourselves about every product we put out. So beyond our socks, it's become T-shirts, it's become stickers, it's coffee mugs, it's all kinds of different things. And if we think that there's a way to start that conversation, to have fun, to take a fun phrase or a pun or something that's happening in pop culture and attach to that and make it a redirect to our faith, well, that's a win. That's absolutely a win. So right now, Wordle is a big thing, right? Everybody's playing Wordle. Everybody has fun. And sometimes Scott doesn't sleep. And when Scott's not sleeping, I get nervous the next day because Scott will come in and he says, well, I bought a domain last night, wordleofthelord.com. And then we spun up a little company and we started making coffee mugs and T-shirts of Wordle. I think I've got one over here. So it has a Wordle built out, but I'm showing these guys. This is great radio. But it's with Catholic words, and then we made sure that the back always says Jesus is always the answer. It's a silly little thing, and it's fun. But if people are going to talk about Wordle, it'd be cool if they also talked about Jesus. And that really is what I did for 16 years in ministry. It's what Scott did in ministry, and it's what we get to continue to do now. But we just have a lot bigger toys to play with now. So
much sense. I mean, because the socks that they stand out. They are a conversation starter piece, or those clever sayings on the shirts that you have. That, I mean, I'd wondered how that happened, but that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to tell us more about the shirts because some of them are so hilarious. Like they catch me off guard with scrolling through. Oh, I see that saint, and what does that say? And it stops me in my tracks. I have to read it again, and then just crack up laughing. And I'm typically in a situation where it's supposed to be quiet, and I'm kind of perusing it when it's supposed to be something else going on. Anyway, I wanted to ask you though about the name of your company, Sacrilegious. That's another pun, isn't it? Another funny. How'd you land on that? That's pretty clever.
Yeah, it actually started as holysocks.co was the original name of the company, and it turned out there's another company called holysocks.com, but in the UK. So like the domain was everything happened and it was fine here, but there was a lot of confusion when people learned about our company and tried to find us on Google or whatever. They were landing on this other company in the UK that wasn't Catholic, but was getting bombarded with, do you have those Pope socks that we saw at NCYC? So we realized that there was confusion there, and I got some encouragement from somebody in the Catholic creative space, and he was like, you have a very unique product, and it deserves a unique name. So at first I was just frustrated that somebody else was worried about us having a similar name. But then I just started thinking of, well, what are other fun ways to kind of mash up the two things that we were working with, which was socks and our Catholic faith or religion. So I just started with the word sock and try to think of fun and unique puns or play on words that come along with that. And then sockreligious.com was an available domain. Of course it was, but we bought that and it kind of stuck. But the most fun thing about it is, unless you say it out loud, it doesn't really make any sense. So even my mother-in-law, I think it was 9 months before she realized that Sacrilegious was a play on words, and she goes, "I get it." I was like, and that's what we're after.
I mean, we know people who have gone years.
Yeah.
Until you hear it said out loud. Anytime we're at conferences or events or we see people and I'm trying to stop them, they'll look at the sign and they see Sacrilegious. But until you say it out loud, it always gets a little smile and a little grin out of somebody, and it starts that conversation. It's just like our products. And so, or if you call people, I always have to really emphasize and say Sacrilegious, because if you call Catholic bookstores and say Sacrilegious, they start to get very concerned.
You don't get very far, probably. Here on the Colby Cast, we really have been seeking out conversations with people working in Catholic creatives, supporting their families, living out their vocations. We've had several conversations here lately about vocation and with other Catholic creators and creative folks trying to find that balance between using their God-given gifts in the ways that God calls them to, and supporting their families in those very practical ways, also as He calls them to. So we're really happy to have this opportunity to hear your story and hear how you guys do this. Will you tell us some more about the T-shirt side? That One Cheap. Those T-shirt designs are so funny. I really enjoy those.
Yeah. So That One Cheap actually was a independent company that existed before Sacrilegious even came about. So I met a gentleman named Weston at a conference, and he owned That One Cheap, and I just fell in love with his product. The unique puns that came along with celebrating our faith, and the reverent humor that he created was something that I just it definitely tickled me pink. And Weston was a graphic designer and a phenomenal artist, but was not the most excited about the business side of the process, which is something that I actually kind of excelled in. So he got to the point where he was working full time in another job and decided not to continue on. And I was able to have a conversation with him and acquire that brand. But it also just fits into so much of what we were doing in our mission. It was really a natural fit for us to be able to integrate those products into our pipeline and offer those to our customers, and it's really become a cohesive part of our brand.
And just a piece of our uniform around here.
Yeah.
Every day we get to walk around, and it's amazing how often a conversation at lunch or just some funny thing said in the hallway all of a sudden becomes a T-shirt for us, because if we can find those fun and creative ways, and really our T-shirts, in a way different way than our socks, they start a conversation, but usually because it caused somebody to burst out laughing. It's that laugh out loud moment where somebody will look at your shirt and they see this beautiful image of St. Anthony on your shirt, and then it says "Don't be a loser" next to it, and that always gets people kind of thinking, well, why would that say that? And then you get to explain to them why. I have a good friend who travels a lot for work, and he has told me he exclusively wears our shirts when he travels, because it always gets somebody to ask him a question. And he is that guy that, like, if you don't want to talk on the plane, I hope you're not sitting next to Josh. But he loves it because it starts those dialogues and those conversations, and he gets to talk about his faith, and he gets to share that with somebody else. And so it's a pretty exciting thing. And the shirts are fun. They're just a lot of fun. And we have new ones coming out every week. We were just sharing images around of one today that had us all cracking up, and we're excited. And the more fun part about it is we've built a brand where we print these on demand, and we're able to do this. So even if it's just a fun idea that we just like and we don't sell a ton of them, it's not always the end of the world. We still get a good laugh out of it, and that's a big important piece of what we're doing every day, is that we enjoy it.
It seems really clear what you're doing. I'm wondering, given just the way Catholic communities can be at times, have you ever encountered feedback with, like, hey, you shouldn't be putting this beautiful image of a saint with something that's funny? Have you encountered that before?
Well, again, I want to emphasize we call it feedback, but yeah, we do. We've recently talked a lot about, if we had to identify our core customer, we would say it's Catholics who take their faith seriously, but not themselves. And that's a big part of what we do. We're not a product for everybody, and we know that. But we do think that there is a group of people out there that we really help celebrate that faith and do those things with. We're very intentional and thoughtful when we put a product together, and when we put these things together. We have a lot of conversation about what goes on the foot of a sock and what we're making sure is well represented and well done. And a quick and easy example I can give is that when we made our Sacred Heart socks, we were very excited to do the image of the Sacred Heart, but we were also very intentional that image not go on the bottom of a foot. It may seem like a silly little thing, but it is an intentionality that we have about our work and the things that we do around here. Now, on the other hand, we have a sock of Our Lady of Grace, and there's a serpent on the foot of that one. we were also very intentional
Very
about
nice.
that.
Very
If
nice.
Mary's going to stomp out the serpent, we're going to let the person wearing that sock do the same thing.
Yeah, we definitely have people that that have criticized or had issue with it, but I think it goes back to what is the intent of the people that are creating this product, and we can tell you for 100% time and time again, the intent of our products is to start conversations about our faith and the lives of the saints. It's not to mock or diminish or cause scandal or anything of that nature. And we sleep good at night, knowing that.
No, that's wonderful. It's I mean it's good to hear those things as well. And just there are different. Yeah, I love it because there are just different things, different modes depending on where you're at in the church and what you're doing. And evangelizing is a different. It's one of those activities which happens primarily outside the church, which is so there has to be that out. I like I like the reasoning and the thought that goes into that. Fantastic.
I think it's great how you're bringing your backgrounds in ministry to this outlet so that it reaches a whole new segment of people that might not even been looking for it necessarily. It kind of comes to them, and then you kind of bring them in and then get that, like you're saying, the conversation going. We're curious about a couple more aspects of your business. How do you guys mitigate conflict within your organization? I'm sure that never happens, but if it were to come up, how do you guys mitigate conflict within your organization?
I will say, and this is, we're very lucky to work for Scott and Elizabeth, because as leaders in our company, they have been very clear, very upfront, very forward from the beginning about how this company will run, how they intend it to be. And one of those pieces has been from the very beginning that we're going to be open and honest, and we're going to discuss and we're going to talk about things. And meetings around here don't happen behind closed doors, and there's no mumbling in hallways. And if you're frustrated about something or you're frustrated with somebody, we get together and we talk about it. For me, again, coming from education, coming from, not to say that was always a problem, but it can very much be an issue in any aspect of the church that I've been around, of the siloing. And everybody gets in their own areas, in their own spaces, and they stay separated. And I think in a very intentional way, Scott has made sure that everyone around here knows that will not be how we work as a company. That we all have our specialties, but we work together. And every morning, our entire leadership team, our top level leadership, we get together, we pray together, we talk about our day, we share with each other what our 3 main focuses are. It's a 5-minute meeting, but it's a wonderful way to make sure everybody understands what's on everyone else's plate. And it usually becomes a really great way to hear how I can jump in and help, or I heard you say you're working on this and I have a little bit of a concern about that. And so let's talk about it and let's get together on it. So before Scott can give his answer, he's a humble guy, but I want it to be very known that we mitigate conflict by making sure that when we encounter it, we address it and we talk about it and we work through it and we leave hugging and in prayer, not in frustration and anger. And that makes it very easy to work for somebody like Scott, because there's plenty of times the conflicts between us, and the two of us will go at it and be frustrated about a decision that's being made, and we'll talk through it, but we always walk away from it knowing that there's been a decision made for the company and we're moving in that direction. We're going to be supportive of it, and we're going to move forward there.
Yeah. I think anytime we have a major planning meeting, we ask for open honesty and vulnerability, and those are 3 requirements to have a really productive meeting. And for us to be able to, just to have a level of comfortability to be able to speak honestly about the concerns that we have, and to share that openly is, just makes us so much more productive and work together as a team. And Jeff touched on it as well, but we make a really intentional and concerted effort to have alignment when we walk away making a decision. So there's times that we make a decision and it's not necessarily the direction that I would be in favor of going, but everybody around the table, we want to make sure that we make this decision as a group, and that's the direction we're heading. Or sometimes I make a decision that's contrary to something else, but I ask for their support and their leadership behind that as well. So that's we have conflict, but it's good and healthy conflict.
Seems like you have to have, I mean, if you're going to be excellent, you have to have
Yeah.
the conflict. I mean, because there's no way everybody will ever agree about everything. And if you
Mhm.
care passionately about things, then yeah, agreements have to come up then.
Well,
I
if
mean,
we,
if ever, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was going to say, if we filled a building full of people who all thought the same way, we wouldn't have a business for very long. Like we thrive because we have people who think very differently about things and problem solve in very different ways and bring very different strengths to the table. But a huge credit to Scott and Elizabeth of they've put all those pieces together, and every one of us, like cheesy or not, like we're united by our love of Christ and our love of the church and our love of the faith. And almost everyone in our organization has come from that background or come from a work in ministry or work for the church in some way that has brought them to this place. And so having that uniting piece, even when we disagree, we know what motivates us and we know what moves us forward. And so it becomes easy to get behind each other and supportive of one another in that way.
So I'm seeing some various kind of components too of your business. So we've got beautiful art and beautiful work there, and we've got the cleverness of a lot of the things that you. But it seems like you also have a focus on high quality things as well. Just kind of looking at your various things, really being concerned about like these are great socks. These are the socks you want to wear every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky to work in a company where it's become very important for us to own the vertical. We want to make our own products, and in some ways, like we got a little bit of a taste of what it was like to really be able to like make your own stuff and control it, and then we just chase that. And so when you talk about making sure we understand the quality and we know those things, we spent a lot of years sourcing our goods from overseas, bringing our socks in. We used third-party companies to do the printing of our shirts, and we probably could have continued with a business like that for a long time. But it was really important, and for a while it was kind of a pipe dream, and then when the opportunity presented itself, we were able to take advantage. But for us to be able to start owning that, so we were blessed a year ago to be able to just over a year ago now, February 19th, we made our first sock in our building. And in the world of supply chain, right? That trigger word that everybody talks about and says and becomes kind of a default reason for everything. Like in trying to mitigate that, being able to own that vertical and make our own stuff, that was important. So we now, we have 10 sock knitting machines. We employ 3 amazing men who have a combined about 65 years of experience working on these machines and knitting socks. And it genuinely, you can check out some videos and stuff on our social media, but we knit from the yarn up. A lot of times people will think we take a blank sock and we might embroider it or decorate it, but it's cones of yarn that pull into these machines. And Scott said it today, it's a miracle every time you see it happen. It's a fascinating thing to be able to see and watch. But making that stuff enables us, when we have a customer who reaches out and says, I got a hole in this sock, we can go look at that sock stitch by stitch. We know what machine it came off of. We know what yarn we used to make it. We can try to understand where the flaw was, what happened. And these guys are amazing because they're able to tell us. I can forward them a picture and they can say, oh, that machine must have dropped a needle when we were making that machine. We're going to have to keep an eye out, or making that sock. We've got to keep an eye out for that when cutting off these machines this week. Like, it really is an amazing gift. And from there, we print all of our own T-shirts in-house now. We make all of our own stickers. We sublimate all of our own coffee mugs. Everything's happening right here in our building. And that's a really important and exciting thing, because it also enables us to just employ some amazing people. And we have just gotten to just get to know these people and learn their stories and understand. And I wish we had some tried and true method for how we find our employees, but like sometimes I think God just like places them right in our front lobby, and I don't know how it happens, but from the like amazing retired woman who does all of our tagging of our socks, Sandy, is the deacon's wife at my church, and the son of a friend of ours who has become this like guru of creation for us and just can run any machine and make anything. And our knitting guys who, like we said, they worked at a facility, they knit socks, and that company closed. And they didn't think they'd ever, be able to do the craft that they had learned again. And all of a sudden, Scott decided to start making socks. And so here they are. And these guys drive 45 minutes to an hour a day just to come work for us, and they love it. They care about their craft and what they do. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg for the people we employ, and just the joy that we get to have in that, and making sure that what we make is quality and that we stand behind it. If there's an issue with our product, we make it right. That's important to us. That's at the top of the heap for what we're doing. And we ask for people's patience too. Like, learning to knit socks is just as complicated as it may sound when you say that out loud. Like, it was not an easy process, and it led to some very stressful days, but it's also led to a lot of joy that's come out of that.
That's fascinating. That would be neat to see.
We love it.
Yeah, it comes through. It's neat to hear these different facets of how you make it work.
Yeah, we're also lucky that, and Scott mentioned it before, but we have incredible creative people who around us who can like take these, frankly, just these dumb ideas that Scott and I have and turn them into just like beautiful products and fun things. But we're also really lucky like that we have people like Scott and I, like, we geek out over the business side. Like, we love the analytics and the spreadsheets and I've been reinvigorated in this job and just thrived on how can we make things more efficient and how can we do them well and do them in a way that drives our business and helps grow our business and enables us to continue to spread and do different things. So it's a lot of fun.
It's neat to see everyone's gifts coming together this way.
Yeah.
And to think about the machinery, the mechanical aspects of what you're describing put to use, that's got to be just fascinating. That's really interesting to me.
It really is. Every time I go out there and watch it happen, it's just fascinating. I'm like a little kid every time.
Yeah, that would be. Okay, field trip. Okay.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Anytime.
Yeah.
We were commenting before we started recording, there seems to be something going on in Indiana. We talked to Jonathan Conrad, the Catholic woodworker, recently. Talking too fast here. And he's in Indiana as well. Like, what's going on in Indiana? It sounds like a great place to be. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
It has become, like, accidentally almost, or intentionally, through God, but this little, like, Catholic creative network that's kind of formed and built in the central Indiana area. And we'll welcome them all. Everybody can come here.
Great.
It's great.
Housing market's great.
Yeah.
That's neat. Well, you guys have spoken to so many aspects of your business. It's been really fascinating to hear. Do you have any other practical tips you might offer to Catholic business owners at this point?
I would say when I started working with Scott, one of the things that was really important to me was invite other people in to just see what you're doing. It's one of my favorite things to do is just bring people over here and give them tours and show them around. But I also have been very intentional about inviting people over who know business. And I'll show them around, and then I say to them, what am I doing wrong? Like, what are we doing? What jumps out at you? What is important here? Getting those people's feedback, and hearing from them and understanding and just learning your business may be a unique and like specific Catholic business, but businesses are businesses too. And utilizing resources to understand pricing, to understand profitability, to understand paying your taxes and doing all the like stuff behind the scenes that aren't the fun stuff, and it's not the things that anybody wants to celebrate, but understanding those things enables you to be so much more successful, to support your family and make sure that you're in a place to be able to like continue to spread. Not everybody wants to grow their business. Not everybody wants to make it huge. Some people just want to find a way to like help sustain their families, but you can't do that if it's not being done well, even at the level you want to do it. So I think inviting other people in, asking their opinions, sharing with people is really important.
Yeah, I think my biggest things would be to be customer centric, to make sure that you're always thinking through the lens of the end user, the people that are using the product. To go back to the quality question, like people all the time say that they buy our socks because they're fun or unique, but buy another pair because they turn out they're really comfortable, enjoy wearing them. But the other piece, and kind of piggybacking off of what Jeff said, is mentorship has been a huge part of our organization. And I have somehow just been blessed with the opportunity to to have people that have wanted to invest their time and energy into making sure that we are successful. And I have regularly scheduled phone calls with people that just love the stuff that we're doing. And I was kind of randomly selected to have some mentorship from somebody that, was the CEO of a Fortune 100 company, and like just people that like what we're doing and find it interesting, that really just dug in and wanted to help us make us be successful.
We keep running across these things of providence. So when you're talking about finding this or having this mentor, when we spoke with Jonathan Conrad of the Catholic Woodworker, he was just saying, yeah, they were just going along, and all of a sudden Matt Fradd talks about his rosaries on his podcast, and things take off. But it was just as he had done, so just this kind of, when you've got something that you're doing and you're doing it certainly as a business, but for the greater glory of God, it seems like he's just, of course, lines things up. Providence is there to give you what you need. And I love the humility that you're talking about there, to not put yourself in a position where you're saying, I've got this all figured out, I'm going to do it on my own, but rather to, hey, anything, I'm open to constantly. That seems so important.
I mean, just when you think you've reached the pinnacle, you get invited on the Colby cast. Like it's really amazing.
How can it be better?
When you guys first signed into to this call to record this, I was thinking, I've been listening to you guys, to your podcast, All Set for Sunday, in preparation for this conversation today. I was like, they're the guys I've been listening to. I know these voices. It's really exciting. And I see you now. It's exciting. So
sorry for the disappointment.
Not a bit. No. So I'm a podcast junkie. I have lots of them that I subscribe to. I'm kind of behind on most of them, but I really have gotten a lot out of your concept of your podcast, All Set for Sunday. What's the story behind this project for people who haven't yet heard your podcast?
Mostly selfish reasons. We just being a business owner and just being a part of a fast-growing organization. Life gets busy, and especially with a very active 3.5-year-old, and Jeff drives 4 hours across the city to pick his kids up after all the different activities that his kids have. And we wanted to be intentional about just preparing for Sunday Mass, because just I'm thinking to myself, like a little one, I spend a lot of time going in and out of the narthex to help my kids out, and I hear about 10% of the readings in the homily. So I wanted to be more intentional about preparing for it, but this was a way for us to hold ourselves accountable to that. We said that we were just going to do it on a regular basis, and we did a pretty good job of it. We
just love, I don't even know if Scott remembers it, but the two of us have a lot of fun together, but we do it in ways that involve our faith a lot of the time. We also do it in ways that drink beer, but we were driving from Denver to Colorado Springs for a conference one time. And at that point in time, I was in a cycle of prayer where I was trying to read the daily readings every day. And so as we were driving, I said to Scott, I was like, I'm going to read these readings. Do you mind if I just read them out loud and we can just talk about it? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I just started reading the daily readings. And I just remember us laughing so hard we were crying, because we were just, and I don't even remember the specific passage, but I just remember having this conversation about imagine being in this moment where Jesus just appears in front of you, and just they never talk about how scared that person might be or what is going on and the impact. And it was a lot of discussion about what's that story around it. And I remember Scott being we should make a podcast out of this. And it probably was another 1.5, 2 years before we actually did it. But it was we took a little bit of a hiatus this past year, but we're, I think, 85 episodes in. Easter will be 2 years that we've been doing it. And it is somewhat selfishly, it helps me prepare for the readings, and it gives me a reason to talk to my family about it and listen with my kids and share. The other thing is there are some amazing men out there who are Catholic priests, and we've gotten the opportunity to just really spend some time with a bunch of them, and we're lucky to have friends who are priests, but through those relationships, we've met even more, and people who I now would consider just like close family friends, and that I spend time with, all because we reached out and asked if they'd be on this dumb podcast of ours, and to just talk about our faith and talk about Sundays and talk about what we need to do to prepare for the Mass and prepare for the readings, but about how that applies to our families and how that impacts our daily life.
It's fantastic. A lot of people can relate to the experience of just rolling into Mass with everybody, and we made it there, and then we hear part of it, and we have every intention of going back and reading the readings later and thinking back through them and catching up, if so to speak. And that may or may not happen depending on the day.
The way we like to think of it is Jeff gives us kind of a brief overview of the readings, and then we talk to a priest, and it's like a priest starts his homily, but we interrupt him and ask a ton of questions throughout. Nice. So it turns out to be a little bit more of a dialogue, but that's the way I like to think about it anyways.
So it's like a practice round for him then, maybe. If he's preparing his homily, he can bring it to you to go through it once. Like, how's this going to land, maybe, and see if it's not landing as he intended it to. He can find out real quick by talking to you guys. And
it's also become a source for other priests to get a little bit of inspirations of what to preach about that week. And we've gotten a few text messages from pastors on Saturday morning wondering why we didn't publish the podcast yet, because they're looking for homily notes.
Uh-oh.
That's the secret underbelly of our listeners. Priests who aren't prepared for Sunday Mass.
So we have frequent conversations about liturgical living and living the life of the church and celebrating feast days, which your products feature just right into that, as you have spoken to. Do you have some tips for families about liturgical living, especially this particular time of year, this high point of our church year and into the Easter season?
One of the things that I really kind of focus in on is embracing the seasonality of the church. Like, the liturgical calendar is intentional in the way that it is, so that we can break up and focus on certain areas. So when the colors of those vestments change, we as a family, I want to try to encourage our family to really focus in on what we are doing and why we are doing what we are doing, and just to focus on that intentionality of slowing down during Lent, or really just celebrating the Easter season, all of it, not just Easter Sunday. So, just digging in.
Yeah, I think, and this is where the dialogue is always fun between Scott and I, because we're both in very different lives with it may not look it, but I'm a little older than Scott. But I also have, I have 3 daughters who are in 9th grade, 7th grade, and 5th grade. So while Scott's chasing a 3.5-year-old around, I'm battling the emotional woes of a 15-year-old. And so it makes how we approach that sort of thing much different. So we as a family, we try to be very intentional about how do we carry forward what's happening in the Mass into our home as well. And whether that is through our discussions, through our dialogues about what was your takeaway here, how are we going to carry this forward this week, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through inviting our daughters to share with us their own prayer and what's going on in their lives, and even just how we gather for meals. It's about trying to get that recognition and say that if we're going to celebrate Lent, we're going to do it as a family. It's my responsibility is to get my family to heaven and to work to do that. And the church has laid out just a very easy plan on how you can do it. It's not always easy to execute, but the plan is there, and it's through the life of the liturgy and through the life of the sacraments. And so how I carry that forward into our domestic church, into our home, and try to live that forward. And it's tough. It's not, we can sit here and talk about it like it's a super easy thing, but it is hard. It is hard work when kids are going in every different direction and we're driving all over the place and we're doing these things. But I really try to take advantage of those times in the car and those conversations we have there, and those times that we do get a moment to just stop and breathe and ask my kids and talk to my family about how the church is impacting them, how that life is a part of what they're living.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up here, is there anything else that we didn't get to that you wanted to bring up or talk about?
We just love being able to partner with you guys and the incredible work that you're doing in your schools and the intentionality and identity that you're bringing to Catholic education through the schools you guys partner with. I think it's again, as somebody who worked in Catholic education and worked specifically in the Catholic identity side of that, that's hard work, and it's amazing the work that you guys are doing, and anything we can ever do to help grow that, we want to.
Yeah, I think the last thing I was going to maybe mention is we're trying to be really intentional this year about we're a very fourth quarter heavy sales organization, and we're trying to find different and unique ways that we can serve the Catholic Church as a whole the rest of the time of the year. So we've got incredible ways to make things, and if there's things that you need made for a school or an event or whatever it might be, we want to be your first call.
If your school needs spirit wear or a walkathon T-shirt or a parish festival shirt, or you want to do gear for those things, we would love the opportunity to do that in a way that reflects our mission and can help make life a little bit easier for you guys, but also support an organization and us and keep these people employed around here and running all these machines.
I could see, I think the first time I encountered your socks in particular at a Colby event, you could just see the joy with people like, this is great. And it was right around that Christmas time where I know a lot of us were talking about, hey, why are we going to Amazon to buy Christmas gifts? Let's go to give some people some really good, fun socks for Christmas that were huge, great gifts. But yeah, it would be great to get that spread out throughout the entire year with all the beautiful things that you've done.
Yeah, we'll always have socks, and that'll always be a big part of what we're doing, but we know that there's a community that we serve and loves our stuff, and we want to just find ways to make, whether that's through our fundraising programs or it's through our on-demand printing or coffee mugs or custom work that we can do. Like, we want to partner with those groups in any way we can.
Good deal. Well, in our show notes for this episode, we'll have links to some of the other episodes that touch on some of these topics that we addressed today: liturgical living, Jonathan Conrad's episode, and other Catholic creatives. So thanks, guys, very much for visiting with us. Scott and Jeff, we wish you guys all the best, and we'll link to your website and these other links that I mentioned previously. We'll have all that in our show notes. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Subscribe to the Colbycast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@colby.org.
Mary, our Mother, pray for us. St. Maximilian Kolbe, pray for us. Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam.